Welcome back to the Hoops Temple podcast. Y'all know me, Nathan Schwartz. Joining me from Sacramento, Aaron Schroeder. Aaron, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. DeMar DeRozan is a king. I've been partying for 3 days straight.
Good, good. Before we get into what we're about to do today, which is rank out power forwards 76 through 100 and revise our power forwards, I want to make three early plugs here. Number one, you have a beautiful Patreon page. The link is now in the bio of this podcast, in the description if you're listening on YouTube. You've got our rankings for the individual players. You've got our rankings for the top 300 out there. Great stuff.
Thank you.
Second plug, I now have a Patreon out there, which contains the entire Matrix. If you want to get the Matrix, you can go online, purchase it there. Patreon does upsell some of the iOS. I put in $20 for the full Matrix. I think they want to do $29. If you DM me on any of the platforms or email me, hoopstemple@gmail.com, we can work out a Venmo situation. Just send it over. Also, price is negotiable. I want more people to look at this. I just also have diapers to pay for. So consider a donation of your choice if you want to email me for prices. And then the third thing is just that email once again, hoopstemple@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We want this to be a discussion. If you think someone got underrated, overrated, shoot us a reason why. Not just like you guys suck, this guy should be higher. Give me some stats. Give me a reason. You give me actual legitimate things, we'll listen.
You can say it, we suck, and that guy should be higher. But then we'll ask you to back it up. Nate's doing his best to get scammed on Venmo. Scammed on Venmo speeder on 15 minutes for someone takes his credit card information.
There's a reason why I'm not just saying my Venmo number. I'm like, listen, email me here. Let's talk. Let's verify you're a human, and then we'll discuss Venmo payments because I ain't about trying to get scammed. I got diapers to buy for a baby. Like I can't.
I was gonna ask,
Can't
are
be
those the diapers for a baby? Or are you getting up there in age?
a little of both. I did throw out my back.
Oh man, yeah. Might have to stockpile some for both.
Yeah, yeah. All right. You would email me before this that you have 18 changes that you want to make to our existing 1 through 75 power forwards. I think that's preposterous. I think we have a perfect
That seems
list.
high. That seems high. I think I said
Yeah.
12.
No, you said
12.
18.
No, I did not say 18. I'll count it out right now. And they're
Well, to
not
be
necessarily
fair,
changes, they're more conversations to have.
if you drop one player down 5 spots, that could be
Yeah,
6 changes right then and there.
that's true. That's why I just track it with the one guy doing the moving.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to scroll through and see how many changes you said.
I said, all right, I have
No,
14. They're not changes necessarily, they're more just conversations to have.
you did say 12. That is my bad, not 18. But
See, Nate's trying to make me look like I just tearing this list apart.
isn't that what we're here for?
That's
Just
true.
a little
All
cannibalization.
right.
All right, let's. I'm going to start off by reading through the list here, and you stop me when you get to one of those changes. If I don't stop you first,
Okay.
starting at number one, we have Karl Malone, Dirk Nowitzki, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kevin Garnett, Bob Pettit, Charles Barkley, Dolph Schayes, Elvin Hayes, Anthony Davis, Chris Webber at 10. No
So
changes.
with Giannis, and really quickly, Duncan's in our centers list. We haven't lost our minds. Duncan's on our centers list, and he's quite high on it. With Giannis, now we decided initially not to move him because it's just another season or he plays really well and then he's hurt in the playoffs. But looking at the stretch that he's had, where he's basically been like guaranteed first team All NBA, guaranteed top five MVP voting, this kind of way beyond Dirk has had. And he's kind of the one guy ahead of him. Since 2017, Giannis has been seventh, sixth, first, fourth, third, fourth in MVP voting. That's such an insane stretch where he is so consistently one of the best players in basketball. I kind of feel like it's time. Like that regular season was special enough where I'm ready just to bump him over what Dirk's done. If you aren't, I'm okay
I'm
with
not
that.
quite. Yeah, it's the playoffs. I want another really good playoff run because with Dirk, he doesn't win in 2006, but that
Hmm.
run up into the finals is just ungodly. That is an
Yeah.
amazing run. And then the 2011 run, not as impressive of an individual Dirk run. It's a better team around him, but like Giannis, we have one run where he gets there. Giannis also gets hurt, and the team gets through the Hawks and puts up a decent
Hmm.
fight without him. So like I think Giannis has the most impressive playoffs with that one title run, but then Dirk's got years 2, 3, and probably 4 and 5 without digging too deep into it. And I
Yeah.
want Giannis to have another deep playoff run before I'm willing to move him over Dirk.
When we get this high, the only currency that's exchanged is these like high end accolades, these high end achievements. And I think for Dirk, I mean, I have him close to the top 10 for my best longevity list that I'm doing right now. I mean, he was so good for so long, played for forever. So there's
Hmm.
that we're going up against too. I mean, I said Dirk was the best player in basketball in '06.
Yeah,
I had number one. So I guess that makes sense. I think one more regular season, no matter what happens, and I think we have to just say like, okay, like this is something really special, and we have to put him up there. But we can keep him there. Did you have any changes in mind?
I didn't. I mean that first four grouping of Malone, Dirk, Giannis, and Garnett, I think people could really flip flop this a lot of ways. We have them in our top 100 as 19 through 22. So like
Hmm.
there's no separation between these guys. But I am pretty happy with it. It's hard to be happy with Carl Malone at first, but I do just think
Yeah,
it is the right move. I mean, if we look across in the
it's the right
matrix,
basketball decision.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if we look across the matrix, Malone has a better award score, a better peak score, a better longevity score, and a better playoff score than Garnett or than Kumpo and Dirk, not as high as Garnett. So like
Mhm.
i- it's just hard for it to try to justify the others above Malone without getting into the
Here, one
personal attacks
one
of how
second.
shitty of a person Malone is. All right. So if we're not going to make any changes to that initial top 10, I think I know where you're going to make our first change, which is
Mhm.
George McGinnis. You've been hammering away on those ABA guys. How far do you want to drop George?
I'm actually not sure if I want to at all. I'd say I'm not hammering. I'm like lightly chiseling, lightly. It's a light like let's push back a little bit. I actually do want to mention Chris Webber a little bit. We moved him down already. It's so tough because it's like we have this all NBA talent year in and year out, upwards of like legitimate MVP candidate, but at the
Hmm.
same time, he is like the last superstar from that era he wanted in the playoffs, and the Kings were basically as good with him as they were without him. And so I struggle a little bit. I think we're in the right spot because we're still like transitioning into guys who are like never in the best player in the world conversation or even top five or maybe even top 10. Like Ray Allen's here soon. I think Ray Allen was like the 10th best player maybe twice. And so I think we're in the right spot. I just I feel strangely about it occasionally. But if you don't have any opinions on that, I think we're still good.
I think the thing with Chris Webber is if 2002, there's not the reffing scandal and the
Mhm.
Kings win, then we
Yeah,
have
good
him in an
point.
entirely different position. Now, you can say, hey, that reffing scandal occurred in game six mainly, or game five, game six. He had
6,
a
yeah.
shooter of game seven where he missed a ton of free throws. So he had a shot to, upset the betting scandal or still
Mhm.
continue through and win the championship. And he failed. And maybe we do need to bring him down. But I just look at him like at that time, he was in the conversation with Duncan, with Shaq, with Garnett, and he was probably the fourth guy behind those
Yeah.
that crust of big men. But like, what a fourth guy to be! That's like saying Patrick Ewing was like guy 3 or 4 behind Shaq, David Robinson, and Hakeem. Like, sure, it's
Yeah.
guy 4, but it's like everyone else is much higher on this list, and so I think 10th best power forward, 57th best player overall. Maybe we bump it back a little bit, but um, will 100% be in the top 75 still.
Yeah, I still feel like we're in the right place. And maybe for the centers list, like I don't know, maybe I'll come back and push Walton more. Maybe you'll be more into it this time, given the circumstances. But yeah, I'll pull that. But to try to get him a little bit further back behind just like some of these really great playoff players. But looking at McGinnis, you have him 68 all time and 11th on the power forwards list. I don't think I really do think there's still a gap. So it's McGinnis at 11, then Hayward at or Haywood at 12, Spencer Haywood, and then Gasol at 13. And I don't think those guys should be below Gasol, but I think they should be closer on the all-time list, essentially.
Did
Um,
did we move Haywood to the power forwards list?
yeah,
We must have. Okay.
yeah.
I just don't have that in here.
Um, so I think I'll do that. We have Gasol at 75, McGinnis at 68, Haywood at 70. And I feel like I kind of like Paul George over Haywood or something like that. I'll think about it. I know we're not doing that, but I think it's kind of more my thing. But I honestly like I want to talk about that. Like they're going down, but I actually think we still have the power forward order correct.
Okay. I can live with that then. All right. I did not remember to move him over. So we actually have 76 power forwards already ranked. We're just here ranked 20 guys. That's lovely.
That's true. I'm making life.
Now you are making center life harder because we got to
Easy.
rank more centers, but I can live with that.
Mhm.
All right. So then just continuing down the list. McGinnis 11, Spencer Haywood 12, Pau Gasol, Kevin McHale, Amari Stoudemire, Blake Griffin, Jerry Lucas. Any thoughts about moving up Lucas? We were very harsh on him earlier. I read Oscar's autobiography. Maybe I just have a softer spot for him now, but I still don't really think about moving him up too much. I think he is a good complementary piece, but not like a guy that you build as the focal point.
I think I guess the mistake we make in that sense is like the league is so tiny in the 60s. Then like so if he's a complimentary piece and there's 8 teams, like what does that make him? Like it makes him a star if there's 16 teams, right? If we're doubling this and he gets his own thing, like maybe that looks better. And so I think I'd like to put him um I think I'd like to put him above Blake Griffin at least. We have where do we have him? Lucas at 105, Griffin at 100, Stoudemire 99. If you want to go Stoudemire, Griffin, Lucas, or do you want to go above Stoudemire as well? What'd you learn from the Oscar book?
So the Oscar book really just points out like how little other help they had between Lucas and him.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah,
That's shitty team.
Oscar is very pro Jerry Lucas and his spacing as well as the rebounding, which, if this guy's hitting near 3-point shots or 3-point shots and still getting you 20 boards a game, like this man is just working it.
hmm
But I think one of the best parts of Lucas's career is when he for Willis Reed at center when Willis Reed gets hurt. But like even then, he is still guy number 3, and I think that's more what I'm looking at. Is even in a condensed league, he's better off being the third player. He's better off complementing 2 other stars and spacing. He's the Chris Bosh. At Stoudemire, we build a 2-man game around him, and so that's kind of where I just end up. Is I'd rather have him here or at 17 still.
Yeah, I could see that. Um, what year does Reed get hurt? I think we might be off on that. 70, right? Not 73.
It's 73 that he's filling in for Willis Reed at center in the playoffs.
Gotcha.
It's 70
Mm,
where Willis Reed is has the injury and gets like comes back in for the heroic moment.
gotcha.
But there are lots of injuries for him in 70 as well.
hmm
It,
With Lucas, you still get
Lucas steps up and fills the void.
yeah, you get a 5th place MVP finish in 66. The 5 All NBA teams, just kind of gnarly rebounding numbers. And I think Oscar is definitely right about the supporting cast. I'm gonna change my. There you go. Is definitely right about the supporting cast in Cincinnati, where I think they basically draft Oscar, draft Lucas, and then don't draft a single other good player until Oscar leaves. Like
They
that,
do draft. I
they
forget
win
who else
Embry.
they drafted.
I mean,
They
they
drafted
drafted
another
Mel
guy,
Daniels and
traded.
then other guys that never came. Let's see, Kings. And so
Yeah,
Oscar's just kind of dragging that
Oscar
team around.
Oscar is livid about it because they do draft a guy, and then basically he wants a new contract, and they're like, "Nah, we're good. We got Oscar," and give up on him. And then they draft multiple guys that go to different leagues, either the ABA or the Eastern
Mhm.
Basketball League, earlier in the run. Trying to get the guys' names here.
Can I read some names?
Sure,
Or so earlier on, you get
Bob Boozer.
sorry,
That's who the
yeah.
that's who they get. They draft, they bring him in, and Bob wants a new contract, and they're like, we'll do okay without you, and sell
So
him for pennies on the dollar.
they draft Oscar in 60 with a territorial pick, and then with the third pick in 61, they get Larry Siegfried. Not good. They take Lucas with the territorial pick in 62. This is great. With their next pick in 63, they take Tom Thacker. Who's that? And they take George Wilson in the first round out in 64. Never heard of that guy. They take Nate Bowman with the ninth pick in 65. They take Walt Wesley with the sixth pick in 66. In 67, they hit a home run, Mel Daniels, and then he goes to the ABA. 68, they take Zaid Abdul Aziz, and he wasn't very good either. And 69, they take Herb Gillum, and he wasn't very good either. And then finally, Oscar leaves, and then um, they draft Sam Lacey and Tiny Archibald. And so it's like they just wait for him to
Yeah,
go and they kick his ass on the way out the door. And it's like, and we finally drafted some good players.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot, but none of that I think should move Jerry Lucas around.
But I
Um,
think it could. I think it could. With you get maybe higher on the all-time list, but we can talk about that. But I think like him and Oscar were the two-man game and were able to win 50 plus games. But we can move on.
yeah. Man, I have a tangent that I want to go on. Do you want to do a tangent, or do you want to stick with actually the list? Because we're going to be at like 2 hours of recording time.
Tangent.
Tangent. Okay, so I've been thinking about the draft, and
Okay.
like we used to do territorial picks. I have another idea. What if we allow players to get drafted coming out of high school, um, and then maintain college eligibility? So, like, instead of going to the G
Mm,
League or doing a two-way contract, you could say, "Hey, I'm declaring for the draft. This team will have my rights in perpetuity until I ever come, but I'm going to college, or I'm going to go,
yeah.
a different route." Because I think that would be really cool if you're like watching Duke and you're like, yeah, this guy next year he's committed to go to Philadelphia or like something
Hmm.
else. I think it
I
helps
like
the
that.
synergy, and
Hmm.
then guys don't have to like rush to get out of college. Now with NILs, they're making money. I just think it's
Hmm.
it's like a cool thing that like, hey, this team has your rights somewhere in the future. College teams could then market it for pros. Pros could then market it back for college. I think it helps both leagues out and keeps guys in college longer potentially because their NBA draft rights are secured.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good idea. Honestly, I'm interested in kind of like I feel like the connection between high school and the pros, like that middle ground, is so weird, so strange. Okay, who's next?
Next up, after Jerry Lucas, we have Tommy Heinsohn, Chris Bosh, Sean Kemp, Lamarcus Aldridge, Bailey Howell, Kevin Love, Draymond Green, and Vern Mickelson at 25. Any changes?
Not particularly. I still like. Part of me feels like Lamarcus should be above Bosch. Um, I think. I mean, they basically they played at the same time essentially, and Lamarcus was recognized as the better player throughout through the forward spots basically.
Yeah, I do think part of that's just Bosch sacrificing to be on a better team. If you look at Bosch's Toronto numbers or his post LeBron numbers, I feel like they're not that different than LaMarcus's. But
Mhm.
LaMarcus is a true number one option. I could get there if you want to make that flip flop.
Yeah, let's see.
LaMarcus moves up to 19, Bosch down to 20, and Sean Kemp at 21.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that sounds good.
Perfect. All right. Then I'll just continue reading the list till we have another move that you want to make.
Mhm.
Maurice Lucas, 26, Joe Folks, Maurice Stokes, Dennis Rodman, Tom Chambers, Larry Nance, Dave DeBuscher, Elton Brand, Gus
Okay.
Johnson, Larry. Oh,
So I have a couple
Gus.
of changes. No, I have a
Okay.
couple of changes. So clearly, I actually saw we had moved to Busher up a while back, and these things get lost in our text messages. So actually, I have DeBuscher already at 26. Um,
Over Lucas.
yes.
Can we get him under Lucas?
No.
Well,
No. I think with Lucas, you get um a couple really good seasons, and then it kind of falls to the wayside during an expansion era. Um, Let me look at Lucas's numbers real quick. But I think with DeBusch, you just got like the ultimate connective defensive piece during the 60s and early 70s. Um,
I
Lucas is like it's nice, right? But I just don't think it's that special. I don't think it's that special.
he leads a championship team in scoring in the finals. Um,
Yeah.
I think part of the problem with Lucas is more Walton tails off, and then he's stuck on this team that has its best player constantly injured, and
Hmm.
there's so much you can do under those circumstances. Lucas was very dominant when he had Bill next to him, and they were able to be that two towers. He also you lose a couple of the early years to the ABA. Um, there's a later rebound once he kind of becomes a journeyman, but then there's like no team that really claims him after he moves off of Portland.
Hmm.
Plays for the Nets, the Knicks, the Suns, the Lakers, and the Sonics. So like it's a little bit hard to get the value. I think if we're looking at peak, Lucas has a higher peak and is able to be that second guy on a championship. DeBuscher is at best the third guy on a championship team in the same era. While he does that longer, my preference would be to reward the higher peak.
Yeah. I understand. I guess I understand that. Um, I just don't know if the peak is worth it. Like if the peak is higher. He made eight All-Star teams, like a year in and year out All-Star. He made six all defensive teams. Um, and like those were invented
I'll tell you,
like halfway through his career. I mean, what if he was a 12-time all defensive player? I mean, I think with DeBuscher, um, you get that like he is Draymond Green of that era, and yet we have 20 spots separating them. We should.
try to think who Lucas is the power forward version of this era. Because
You
I
see,
mean he's
you can't come up with a good one. Then mine's better, right?
well he's legitimately second best player on a title team. Just hard to think
But
of
we,
like
yeah,
a two pronged title team with a power forward where the power forward's the second. Like he's not the Duncan, he's not the Garnett.
but we
Um,
understand like the logistics of that Blazers team, where it's like Walton is the best player on that team. He's the second best player in basketball that season. Like it's a very team oriented style. The parity in that league is insane at the time. Um, and so like let's say let me do some real quick.
you do
He's the
also
second best.
have you have Lucas taking sixth in MVP in 78, ninth in 77. Um,
Sure. The MVP voting
and
in
I
the 70s is all fucked up. It's all fucked up.
well,
They were doing like it was still player voting. Like 35 players got an MVP vote. Who knows what that meant? Um,
I'm also just gonna say Butcher making all of the All Star teams in a condensed league.
mhm.
Not quite as impressive in my mind than Lucas doing it in the 80s. And just gonna say it here, white guys did get some favorable treatment in award
Yeah,
selections
okay.
in the
Yeah.
60s and 70s,
Let me
especially in comparison to guys that came from the ABA into the NBA in
yeah.
those early 80s, late 70s.
So let
It's
me
fine either way. I think we should move on.
No,
Just,
I don't want to move on because I have another point to make.
okay.
So Maurice Lucas on my scale, on my beautiful, beautiful scale, is a top 20 player one time. He's 17th in 1977. Um, where DeBuscher comes in and he's 15th in 65. If he's 17th in 66. And so we have and these guys are playing. I mean, it's 3 years apart, so it's a similar enough era, and it's his final season even, or he's still a top 20 guy, still an All Star, 11th in MVP voting, first team All Defense. I mean, he is such a good rebounder, such a good defender, and consistently about as good as Lucas was one time.
I'm gonna say though, your scale's broken here.
It's not.
And
If anything, it's undervaluing defense.
I will also say it is not the same era. Basketball, DeBuscher retires
It's
in
seven
74.
74 to 77. It's 3 seasons. So it's not like it's eons apart.
The tail end of his career is the start
Yeah.
of the next guy's career. That's like saying LeBron and Jordan played in the same era because Jordan retired and then LeBron started. The
I'm just
peaks
saying
of their
it's
careers are at very different
comparable.
points. Well,
It's but they were both
but
about top 20. And I guess the post-merger stuff, like I get it. I get it.
the post-merger
Um
condenses the league. The pre-merger, the like 70 or the 68 to 74 span with that with the multiple teams and the rapid expansion depletes the talent on each team. Like it's
mhm.
it's very different
Okay. All right,
eras,
let's
and
do
you know it.
Lucas
You're
and then
smart enough to know
the
this.
Busher. Let's do Lucas and then the Busher. Um
Hell yeah. Too much time on these guys, but I'm glad we ended in the right place.
oh sure. Okay, and then I can read it. Joe Fulks, Maurice Stokes, Tom Chambers, Larry Nance, Elton Brand, Gus Johnson. Did you have any changes for those guys?
We definitely made some changes in here that I don't have recorded. So you went Stokes, Chambers, Elton Brand, then Nance?
No, I had Nance then Brand.
Nance, then Brand. Where did Rodman fall? And I
Ro-
am never against dropping
Rodman.
Rodman.
He's okay. So we like I kept up religiously. If I texted you like, "Hey, we should move this guy," I did it. And so I am with Rodman. He fell to 35. I think we were insane. I think we're on this weird Rodman hate train. He
Sure.
should be much
I'm
higher.
always
Like
on that train.
he should be way higher. And I think we fucked up in that sense. Like whether he is a negative offensively or not, he is still like one of the 10 best defensive players ever, or 15. Um, he is the best rebounding forward we've ever seen. He's won 29 playoff series and 5 championships, and he should be higher. Like I think we were just like, yeah, fuck it, like just throw him down there. Where it's like we have him. I think he should be. I think he should be above at least Larry Nance.
So I think we might have worked this out in text.
Mm.
You didn't update it. I've got him currently 30th behind above Chambers and Nance.
Yeah, it sounds perfect. I'll put him there. That sounds great.
Perfect. You know, the thing that I do always push back with Rodman is yes, he has all of those impressive series, whatnot, but so many of them he's not playing like
Yeah.
consistently big minutes. It's like less than half of his series where he is playing 30 minutes. That's or more. If you're looking at guys who can do stuff for you off the bench, you know the whole finals run, he's sub 24 minutes per game. That first ring in '89 with the Pistons. The next year with the ring, he's 20 minutes per game in the finals. Part of that's because he does get hurt, and so that skews up his minutes. He plays a single minute one game, but he's only 26 minutes per game in the Eastern Conference Finals that year. So,
Yeah.
like,
I think we've
it,
already shit on him to enough where it's like the average list has him playing 56th. And it's like, we get it. Like, we understand what's going on. We don't have to push him back to like a 207 or something. So we have Rodman power forward 30.
Yeah.
And then I moved him up to 153,
That's
looks like. Perfect.
all right. All right. I still need to go through and adjust some of these guys, their all-time rankings. But we could do that later. All right. So Rodman 30, Chambers 31, Nance, Elton Brand, Gus Johnson, Larry Johnson, Harry Gallatin, Terry Cummings.
Yeah. Let's hang on for a second. The next guy's Bobby Jones. And I think Jones should be higher. He doesn't play all too much, but he's such an important part of these really good teams. He still like is a consistent all-star presence. And when I look at Larry Johnson, and he was like kind of good for 2 years and then his back goes out, I feel like Jones had a much bigger impact on the game. Like that's where I'm at.
Yeah, the tricky thing with Bobby Jones, he's got the same kind of minutes problem. He does come off the bench a lot as like first starter out the game due to his epilepsy. Just can't take the flashing lights as much.
Too.
Yeah. I could get him up. I don't quite know that I want to have him over Larry Johnson, but I could put him between Larry Johnson and Harry Gallatin.
That sounds good.
All right. So, making me keep re-ranking these guys is on the fly.
Isn't this fun?
Oh, spreadsheets.
Love it, right?
All right. So, now we go Larry Johnson, Bobby Jones, Harry Gallatin, Terry Cummings, Bob Love, Derek Coleman, Buck Williams.
Yep, let's hang on for a second. Derek Coleman didn't like basketball, and Buck Williams was an impact defender for like 20 years. Let's flip those guys.
Do you want to move Buck up anymore? With the rework in the Matrix, he is the 66th guy all time as far as longevity goes. Really impressive longevity, really high his stats for an extended impact, and I like how the Matrix breaks this out.
Put him above Larry Johnson.
I don't quite want to go that far.
Come on. Okay, fine.
I think we should still have him behind Bobby Jones.
All right. Above Gallatin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe that's just because I'm kind of forgetting what Harry Gallatin did. I remember he's nicknamed the Horse.
He's a Nick.
Yeah.
He's like a 60s Nick, basically.
Yeah, 50s Nick. 6-time All-Star, 1-time, 7-time All-Star, 1-time All-NBA first team. Yeah. A couple of really deep playoff pushes. He's part of 2 or 3 finals teams with the Knicks. It's fine. It's good. But yeah.
Okay.
All right. I know you've on ABA guys. Larry Keenan's the next guy at power forward 42.
I feel fine about his spot. I think you pushed him down when we first did it, and so you were right the initial time.
All right. Any desire to move up Carlos Boozer?
No. I think you get the couple good seasons, but we're good after that. But the next guy, Tomjanovich, I think we should do him and Nedelicki at 46. Should go below, and you're gonna love this. You're gonna think I'm the coolest guy in the world. They should go below Rasheed
Wallace. I knew exactly where you were going with that. I love it. I love it. In the same order, I think Nedelicki should still be higher. Or sorry, Tomjanovich should still be higher than Nedelicki. Is that what you're thinking?
So you cut out. Are we putting? Because I have Tomjanovich above Nedelicki as it stands.
Yes.
Okay,
yes. Yeah. I would like to remain with that.
All right, that sounds good. Okay, give me a second on this one. Just like the toe.
And this for the listeners, this is a lot of clerical work of us moving these guys around, but just kind of talk about it. That both Bob and Rudy were really good players in the 70s when the league is kind of split. Bob Nedelicki for the Indiana Pacers, one of the most interesting men in the world. Whenever I get a chance to talk about him, I will fucking take that opportunity. Man flew a crop dusting plane down for his interview. Man owned the bar that everyone drank at. He is Will Ferrell's character from Semi Pro in real life. Rudy Tomjanovich is, of course, the subject of The Punch. Just tried to come in to break up a fight, got clocked by Kermit Washington, a man that we may or may not talk about today. He didn't make my top 100, but he was under consideration.
Don't think he made mine, but punched Tomjanovich so hard in the face, his jaw broke and spinal fluid leaked into his mouth.
Yeah. But
Ouch.
before that, and even kind of after that, multi-time All-Star. He gets an All-Star appearance afterwards. He said he felt like he was a pity All-Star. His numbers do not suggest that. He was still very good coming back from the punch. Yeah, just two cool dudes.
How do you feel about putting Paul Silas above Nedelecki? Any interest?
Yeah, I could do that.
All right, let's do that. Because the thing with Nedelecki is like, while he's good, he is like initial ABA 68 on, and you see that decline. Or Paul Silas played forever. He was like just the grandfather of defense on all these different teams.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say with Nedelecki is he was still a really prized MVP pick. He was like one of the guys that two teams fought over for who was going to get his rights. So the NBA wanted him. It's not like he was some NBA cast stuff. He just didn't really know what finances were because he came from such a rich family. And so he's like, if you give me Mercedes, that's worth it for me to go play for you, as opposed to like negotiating contracts. And so,
my goodness,
yeah, he's like, I want a cool car, and that was a Mercedes.
He got his cool car. Okay, after that we have Randall, Julius Randle, then Horace Grant. I think we should flip those. Julius Randle gets hurt every season and sucks in the playoffs, and Horace Grant was legitimately good on playoff teams for 15 years.
I think we're going to do that. We also need to put Randall below David West, below Zach Randolph.
Ooh,
and like right
oh,
next to
Randolph moving. Yeah, above Anton or below?
Below.
You love you love Anton Walker.
I do. Actually, fuck it. There's Charles Oakley right there too. Let's put him behind Oak.
Yeah, I think like Randall gave us a legitimate star season, and two of them where it's like this dude is just can't guard him. And his playoff struggles combined with his injuries, combined with his team was fine after he got hurt, basically. Like it hurts his stock for sure.
Well, and
sorry, Julius
also
Randle,
what helps,
we're going way down. Go ahead.
What also helps is that he's not going that far down. He's moving down 5 positions on our power forward from 55 or from 50 to 50. But these guys are on our overall list 250 to 259. So like he's gonna drop 9 spaces out of 300 players. Like not that big of a drop. When I broke out the matrix to have separations for playoffs, Julius Randle came in 1,324th in the playoff rankings, because that's really how rough he has been in the playoffs, or how little we've gotten to see of him.
Yeah, I don't even think he's bad in the playoffs necessarily. Like, I don't think it's like, oh, Randall's not built for this. When they made it in 21, it was like this upstart story, and whoa, like Julius Randle and this hot Knicks team. And then come playoff time, he was the only guy in that team that could score. Like he was like they ended up going with like Derrick Rose, like ISO buckets. It was an offensive disaster. And then he was injured the other series. So you basically have one series where it's like, okay, like he ran his team, in the other series where he's hurt. And so I'd like to see more. It's not that I don't believe in him. It's just he hasn't showed us.
Yeah. I think if he had been healthy, he would be much higher. But he's got the 3 series, and in those 3 series, he shot 30%, 34%, and 41% from the field. Really, if it wasn't for the Eastern Conference semis against Miami in 23, like he could be significantly lower. But it's healthy this year. I think we'll get to see it. We'll flip this back, and we'll actually probably move him up a bit. But just based on what we've seen thus far, I think this is good.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's smooth sailing from here on out. I have one more change towards the back end.
All right, then I'm just going to keep on reading. So from Randall now at 55, we have Rudy LaRusso, Vin Baker, Antoine Jameson, Paul Millsap, Otis Thorpe, Bill Bridges, Sidney Wicks, David Lee, Anthony Mason, Antonio McDyess, Kenyon Martin, Lamar Odom, Danny Manning, Happy Hairston, Truck Robinson, Sam Perkins, Sharif Abdul Rahim, Bob Kaufman, Bob Boozer, Kevin Willis, and Juwan Howard. What is your one change?
It's Bob Kaufman. I think we just like it's not that good. It's not that good. He is a full-on bench player for the Supersonics and for the Bulls, then he's terrible. He's like 20 and 10 with some cool assist numbers, but they win basically 20 games each season. 22 the first year, coached by Dolph Shays, which is pretty cool. Then 22 wins the second year, and then 21 wins the third year. And this is an era where every team got an all-star. So he was kind of like the nominated, like, hey, here's our guy, right? 20 and 10, but like these are the worst teams in basketball. And so I think I'm not even sure where he should go necessarily. Looking at like the names we have soon, but not there.
I'm starting to
I don't know what to do
get
with
word
it.
for when we do the center podcast.
Why?
Well, thus far, you've kicked down Harry the Horse Gallatin. You're kicking down Bob Horse Kaufman. Is Jokic in trouble with his horse love? Is Dan the Horse Issel
Hey,
about to just take a deep plunge? What do you
well,
have against horses?
I didn't kick down Gallatin.
A
He was
victim
in
of
the
circumstances?
crossfire. He was a
Sure,
victim of
sure.
circumstance. What was the name of the power forward? I'm missing. The guy who doesn't care about basketball, and I said we should flip. It was Horace Grant, and then
You
no, it
wanted
was
to
the other
move
one.
up. You said Coleman doesn't care about basketball, and you moved a guy up
Coleman.
over him.
Yeah,
You
Derek
moved
Coleman
Buck
is great
Williams up.
basketball, and then Buck Williams went way up. Okay, yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. All right. I'm
All
fine
right.
with somehow we ended because we moved Haywood into the power forwards. We had 76 already. If we take off Kaufman, now we only have 75, and we start ranking 76 through 100 and keeping Kaufman somewhere in that loop.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. Looking at the Matrix, there's one guy that sticks out like a sore fucking thumb in this group, and it is Bob Kaufman. Do you want to guess where he came in at the Matrix?
No idea. 700th.
12-12.
Okay. Okay. Not good. I don't
Not
even
good.
know what to do with him. I haven't. I just moved to the back end of the list, but I think I'd rather have like Josh Smith.
Yeah. Yeah, I see a spot in here for him.
All right, I'll
In
toss
the
his
top
name
100,
right here. All
but
right. Sorry, Bob. You're getting the axe. I'm just gonna take his name off of that. Okay, 1 second. Let me.
also to be fair, Sharif Abdul Rahim, love him though I may, because of his lack of playoffs, is like back at 900 in the Matrix. Stuck in the playoffs, not playing much in the playoffs, really tanks you now that this is all split out and the playoffs get their own score. But it really helps me identify those like key playoff role players who maybe never were stars, but were on playoff teams for like 15 years playing high minutes. So I think those guys have a lot of value.
Okay. All right, you ready? That took a normal amount of time.
Yeah, we've been going about 30 minutes of review and about 100 or about 60 minutes of the one you know how times work and clocks, but
Yeah,
like 60 minutes of
the
ranking.
whole clocks thing. I think I understand.
They're a concept for some.
All right, hey, I started the small forwards. It's on you.
Mel Hutchins.
Yes, that's right. That's what I had. Mel
Fuck
Hutchins,
yeah.
4-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year. Kind of like dominates in the post Mike and pre Russell era, which is an interesting one. Um, But hey, man, 10-10 in the mid 50s, you might as well have been Wilt Chamberlain. Um, he was second rebounds per game his rookie season, then sixth, then eighth. Also, pretty cool assist numbers, top 20 three times, but you get the four All Star teams and fourth in MVP voting in 56. He's kind of he's like the guy next to George Yardley, basically, for those finals teams
Hmm.
in the mid 50s. So, no legends.
And what Yardley says about him. First, actually, I'll read you what Sash Sanders says about him.
Mhm.
He says that Hutchins was so smooth defensively. He was always in the right place. I thought to myself, I sure hope one day I can play like that. Sash
Wow.
Sanders, of course, legendary defensive player. George Yardley goes a step farther. Of course, naturally, you guys are always going to say this about your own teammates, but he says, by far the best defensive basketball player that ever lived. Same prefers Hutchins over Bill Russell since Russell was a better help defender, while Hutchins was a more versatile man-to-man defender. Now, that is some teammate on teammate boxes. This was also a quote, I think, from the 50s or 60s. So like not
Hmm.
not consideration all of the more modern guys, but to be able to be in the era and say, you know what, I kind of prefer this guy to Bill. That's high praise, and I'd actually like to put him up above Sharif Abdur-Rahim at 72.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I'm into that.
All right, and we have your nomination time.
I love the you're breaking the norms, going up. My nomination is Cliff Robinson. Uncle Cliffy, one-time All-Star, 1983 Six Man of the Year, two-time All Defense. Um, just unreal longevity. He's played in 1,300 games. 1,300 games is kind of an insane amount. It's the 15th most ever. And throughout that, like as late as like 2004, he's still playing 35 minutes a night at age 37, all 82 games. He's eighth in Defensive Player of the Year voting. And this is someone that, like, he got Defensive Player of the Year votes in KG's MVP year, and he was a part of the 1989 draft. But also just a really important part of the Blazers' two finals runs and just some pretty good Blazers teams as well. That's where I'm at.
We'll give him really important part of one of them. The other one is like 50 minutes a night. Come
Eh,
as a defensive specialist.
crucial.
Uh,
Crucial. Like they wouldn't have done it without him. I'll double down.
they didn't do it with
He
him, but
had to be, yeah. If there is no proof that they could have done it without him. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
that's longevity of anybody left on the board. I love it. I had him at 78. The one guy that I had between him and Mel is Jaren Jackson Jr., which I know is
Whoa.
early. I wanted to stake this claim early.
Nah.
Defensive Player of the Year, two-time All-Star. The rest of this list, not a good list. I was messaging you and I'm like, I'm not sure we're gonna have 80 power forwards make our top 100 or top 500 all time. Like,
I get that. No, I get that for sure. Um, he's made one All-Star team. He's made one All-Star team. He's played in 23 playoff games. Like he shoots under 40% in the playoffs. I think I look at like AC Green, who is my next guy, and it's like, hey, I honestly just give me 1,300 games in a row of a good defensive
okay,
player. Then I have Jaren Jackson, like he's on my list, but I just don't like the body of work. Like I think if we're going full peak, like that matters to me when it's like the All NBA to All Star difference, right? But if it's what Jaren Jackson Jr. is to what AC Green is, then I'm not as compelled. Like the peak doesn't push me. Like eventually, I think the longevity piece takes over. It's like this guy actually played a while, like played in games, you know.
the longevity pieces will for a lot of these guys. I think this is a
Yeah,
very similar group. There's not a lot of star potential. There is a lot of guys who played for a very long time in this cluster. Do you want to do AC at 78 then?
yeah, dude. The Iron Virgin, AC Green.
Okay. So the Iron Man streak. People either make it out
I,
to be a lot more than it is or like shit on it.
mm,
So I went
it's
through
still
his
really
game by
cool.
game logs.
Yeah.
I went through the game by game logs because people are like, well, he's getting put in for a minute, whatnot. from 86 to 96, that doesn't really
Mhm.
happen until 96. Like in 96, he plays 5 minutes or less in 7 games, including just a single
Mhm.
minute in a couple of them. But like the rest of the years, he's playing legitimate minutes. It's not like we're going to stick you in for a minute just to get the streak. You know what? In year 11, I'll take it. If you play 10 straight years of high volume play, like you can sneak out a game, just keep your streak alive in year 11. Like
Yeah.
Mikal Bridges hasn't missed a game since high school. That's
It's worth
cool.
something.
AC Green,
It's worth
yeah,
something.
that's a decade. All
And
right,
AC
so
Green managed to play for the Showtime Lakers and never had sex. That is career.
never caught
That's why
having sex.
I called he's the Iron Virgin. He never did it. He's a devout Christian. Okay. He's next. Who do you have after that?
I do think he just didn't have sex with anybody but his wife. So I'm pretty sure AC was married.
No, he wasn't. They would send him women to his locker room and he would say, I'm sorry, like to his locker room, to his like, the hotel room. He's like,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry guys, like I can't.
My
Who do you
family,
have next?
when we lived in Pasadena, did attend like either an AC Green like, funded church or AC Green was a part of that church. And this is when I was little. Parents are,
Mhm.
you know, they've moved in different ways. I think AC Green is also kind of homophobic, so it's a cool factoid that we went to this church. Not something that we're like actively doing. But
Mhm.
next up, I don't know. Do you want to do
Wait.
longevity? You want to do peak?
I'm back on peak, but really quickly it says that AC Green explains how he remained a virgin his entire career. The whole time. 38 years old.
Hand and mouth stuff.
Respect.
That's how you do it.
Shut the fuck up, man. That's not true. That's how dare you question this man's ethic. He was pure. My next guy was Marvin Barnes.
Okay. Okay. We're back on peak here. I
I
have
try to
Marvin just
mix
a few
mix it
spots
more.
back. Yeah.
Barnes is legitimately great. He's ABA second team, rookie of the year, 24 points, 16 boards, 3 assists, 50% shooting, a steal, nearly 2 blocks. He's 22 years old. He's also fucking crazy. He's like the craziest dude in the league. And he burns out pretty quickly, but he is a legitimate ABA star for a brief moment.
Yeah. So his one playoff run, because he only makes it 1 year when he's good. But in 75, he averages 30 and 15 points against Julius Irving, Larry Keenan, and Billy Pultz. All three guys that we've ranked already. Just a high level talent there. Then in the second round, he drops 31 and 13 against Artis Gilmer and Dan Issel. I don't think it's a question of talent. It is totally a question of mentality. And yeah, I'm totally fine. I had him back a few spots, but I've got him behind like Jaren Jackson Jr. and Tobias Harris. Not gonna fight too hard for these guys. How far down do you have Toby? Muted.
I have it very soon. The next couple
Okay.
of guys. So Mickey Johnson, which we need to address the controversy. The internet was clamoring about it. They said, Aaron, Mickey Johnson's not a small forward. Why is he in the small forwards list? It's because we're great fools. And that's what great fools do. And we adjusted that. So Mickey Johnson moved to the power forwards list. Now, from the back end of the small forwards list, kind of the front end of the power forwards list. Are you okay with that? With slotting him in here at 80?
Could we get maybe Jack Coleman ahead of him? Any Jack
Yeah,
Coleman thoughts?
actually. He was the guy I had after that. Absolutely. Jack Coleman's good.
Where's my
What's your
Jackie
Jack Coleman
Coleman
story?
notes? Gotta get past Derek Coleman's story first.
Well, he was fat and lazy. Sorry, Derek. I just the stats are so good, but every time I like read anything about him, and it's like Derek Coleman didn't care about basketball. It's like okay, like let's fix this.
Okay, so he's the do everything type of power forward. In the 57 Hawks finals run, he is giving more minutes per game than Hagan or McCulley. He wins a ring with the 51 Royals, kind of more of a reserve role, but still doing a bit of everything. points per game, 13 rebounds per game, 6.3 assists per game. Lots of playoff series, especially for a guy in the 50s where you don't have that many rounds to play 21 playoff series in 9 years. That basically means you are playing at least 2 rounds in playoffs that only have 2 or 3 rounds. He is constantly there. 4 years in the top 10 of rebounds per game, 3 in the top 20 of assists per game. I just think it's a really versatile little player that contributed to a high level of winning.
Yeah, I see that. And you get the 51 Royals championship as well. 13 boards per game in that finals as the Royals almost blow a 3-1 lead, but then do not.
Exactly. And we got to celebrate those Sacramento championships because, well, it's not a Sacramento championship, but you guys have a trophy somewhere. I believe in you.
Okay, so Mickey Johnson, we'll put him in next. He was on the small forwards list, not a small forward, but Johnson averaged 14 points, 7 boards, 3 assists on 45% shooting. Nicknamed the Rubber Band Man because of his height and long arms, just lankiness, his ability to block shots, get deflections, and grab rebounds from long distances got him that name. I believe he was 97th on the small forwards list. Now 81st on the power forwards list. But is it Tobias Harris time? Are you going to say nice things about Tobias Harris?
So I think the nice things that you can say about Tobias is dude puts up no, they're not always the most impactful numbers, but he is able to do it for a very long time. When did he come into this league?
2012.
2012. It's 2024. He's been, somewhere in the probably somewhere in the 15 to 18 point range for the last decade of that, and still going strong. He's going to be a Piston this year, so watch out for another 20 points per game season for him.
He's getting 20 a night. Hell yeah.
It's not high level contributions, although he does play a big part in that one Clippers year. Up until the playoffs, I believe he missed the playoffs. I have that in my notes somewhere. If I could ever find the guys, freaking Derek Coleman still coming up. But I don't know. I just from 17 to 22, 18.5 points per game, 6.4 per game. Yeah, he's never been the guy he needs to be. But also, are we really going to put him in Philadelphia? I'm sorry, Philly. You can't push all of the blame on him when he gets hurt every year.
I think
it'd be nice if Tobias showed up.
Yeah, it'd be nice. But Embiid gets injured, and it's Tobias Harris, and it's he's supposed to be your third guy. Leave Tobias alone. I think we should say it like it is. Tobias Harris is better Harrison Barnes. You get someone who can create his own shot a little bit. He's a fairly good rebounder. He's a decent defender. At the upside, you're hey, is this guy 26 might make an all-star team? Never really comes to fruition. Doesn't develop into that, but he still has some pretty good contributions. So that's a good place at 82. Who's next?
Interested in Jaren Jackson Jr. yet?
No, I just I don't think so. I don't think so. How about Stu Johnson?
How about Trooper Washington?
Is that a better ABA guy?
It is another ABA guy. Why did I have Trooper so high? Really, I have Trooper right over him. Why the fuck do I have Trooper in here? Never mind.
I have no idea. Couldn't tell you. I have with Stu Johnson, 3-time All-Star. He's only plays for the ABA, but his All-Star teams are 73, 74, and 75. He's 22 points and 7 boards in 73. And so this is later stage ABA. It's the league's actually kind of good. He makes the playoffs in all of those years. And so I respect that. I respect that.
Yeah. Also a noted good 3-point shooter for his day, despite it being like 30% and 1.3 attempts. But that
Yeah.
is a thing guys talk about. But for him, makes the playoffs in just 2 of his seasons. 16.6 points per game, 6.3 rebounds per game. Yeah, I think this is just kind of an ugly era. How would you feel about Bob Kaufman back in at this point?
Okay. Yeah, let's do him. Let's do him first, and then would you rather have Stu Johnson or Serge Ibaka?
I'd rather take Serge.
All right. Would you rather have Serge Ibaka or Bob Kaufman?
Give me Bobby Koff.
All right. Ibaka's so interesting because like I really started to get into basketball like as like the baby Thunder were a thing essentially, and so like I remember it's like whoa like this is a big four all of a sudden like holy shit Serge Ibaka is he the second best player on this team? He's 3.7 blocks a game. He's like the greatest shot blocker since Batumbo. Um,
I
never
now
really
have a
come to
cluster of
fruition.
guys. I now have a cluster of guys that I really like.
Okay,
And I think these should be the next 5 guys. Maybe we
okay.
just have to work out the order. I do
I
think
want you to tell me what happened to Serge Ibaka first. What America wants to know? Why does Serge Ibaka not turn into a superstar?
I think if Serge was never supposed to be a superstar. I think that's the problem. I think
Fair.
that's a little bit of like the Robert Ory effect of this is such a good role player. He is so well suited for the era and where ball is going that people wanted to make him into a star. And Phoenix tries to do that with Ori, and Ori very quickly figures out, no, I'm just going to go play with the Lakers and continue to win rings. And like if Ibaka had gotten to a different team where he was just, let me get rings, let me help get the best out of these other teams, you would have been better off. The more I think about it, I won't have him over Kaufman.
Sounds like
But
you talk yourself right. How about him over Tobias?
no, I think Tobias. No, I, I think Serge needs to be the 4th guy, and Tobias needs to be a 3rd guy. I think you lose value on
Okay.
Tobias if you have 3 guys better than him. I think you lose value on Serge if you only have 2 guys better than him.
So let me hear your next group of 5. I'm curious.
Okay, so we're sticking with Jaren Jackson Jr.,
Okay, and this is
Josh
starting at
Smith.
86, right?
Yes, but
Okay.
really these are the next 5 guys, and I'll let you debate where they should be.
Okay.
Jaren Jackson Jr., Josh Smith, Johnny Green, Aaron Gordon, and Nat Clifton.
All right. I have your order. Josh Smith. We'll go Josh Smith first. I think Smith is very comparable, like to Jaren Jackson Jr. You get these like the advanced stats actually quite like Josh Smith as an impact defensive player, like and a good offensive player as well. Before he gets to Detroit, he was just really good at finishing on the basket and was kind of crazy defensively with near close to 3 blocks per game, a steal and a half during his time in Atlanta. I think like Josh Smith is the full Jaren Jackson Jr. career in a way. And so I'd like to do him first. Johnny Green, I think I'll take him next. Aaron Gordon, then Jaren Jackson Jr., and then whatever guy was your 5th guy, Nat Clifton.
Nat Clifton,
How's that?
Sweetwater.
Sweet. I didn't have him.
I like it.
Is
I
he
like it.
sabotaging me? Like, wouldn't it be funny if I didn't give Aaron
Let's
Nat Clifton?
let's talk a little bit about each of these guys, so if someone's listening, they can at least
Absolutely.
hear it. All right, so you did Josh Smith. The one thing I'll just say is if Jaren Jackson Jr.'s career ends up being Josh Smith, that will be a disappointment. I think he is already level, but that is kind of how I feel about Josh Smith. Because that was a disappointment. Josh Smith showed up. He was super versatile, super athletic, and just never fully figured it out. Never fully developed, figured his spot on team rotation. The Hawks get better when he moves out. The Pistons end up just waiving him. Probably the most notable part of Josh Smith's career is being that off the bench player for, I want to say, Houston against the Clippers in that comeback game where he starts raining threes. And then, that's kind of the last good moment. But Um, that's Smith. Johnny Green. Johnny Green was a super interesting guy to read about. I'm sad I didn't know more about him because he went to Michigan State. That is, of course, my alma mater. Um, Green graduated high school at 5'9", joins the Navy, or is either the Navy or the Marines, and goes there, bulks up, also gets the second growth spurt where he grows to being 6'5", kind of like uh, whatever 60s Dennis Rodman of just being this like workhorse player who was small and then gets this growth spurt and is still like insanely valuable. As MSU coach said, he's worth at least 50 points a game to us. Combine his scoring, his defense, and a bunch of the psychological intangibles, I'm sure he's worth more than half of our total points in any game we played. Um, just big rebounding numbers. He doesn't get to the league until he's what, like 26 or something, and still a fifth overall pick. From 62 to 65, 15 points per game, 10 rebounds per game. Known as Jumpin' Johnny. I think he's a really cool player.
Yeah, absolutely. And he plays forever. Forever and ever and
Yeah.
ever. I'm doing the longevity list and doing like the stat head, like oldest player to X, Y, and Z. And it's like, who the fuck is Johnny Green? Like brand new to me. And we've been doing this like for a while now. And so that was really interesting to play until like 38, 37, 38. In that era is
39.
pretty wild. 39. My
Yeah.
goodness.
73. He's 39. And really, he's at 37, he is an all-star. I don't know how many
Yeah.
players are all-stars at 37. It is
Almost
not a long
certainly
list. He
the
also leads.
oldest all-star ever at the time.
Oh, at the time.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Wilt
I don't
was
think anyone
Wilt
else
was
has
really
got.
old. I don't know.
Yeah, but Will retired after 36.
Jerry West?
West 35.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's a chance that he was the oldest all-star for a significant point. Also leads the league in field goal percentage that year. So efficient scorer, if not um, the highest of volumes. Okay. You want to talk about Aaron Gordon? People probably know about Aaron Gordon.
People know about Aaron Gordon. I think we know him as the Nugget right now, the dunker spot, the defensive specialist, the occasional floor spacing. The way he plays off of Jokic just really opens up what the Nuggets do offensively. In Orlando, it's so interesting because he's like the 4th overall pick. He's coming out of Arizona. Like, this is our star. He's winning the dunk contest, or he should win the dunk contest. I forget I think Levine took it from him. And he's kind of miscast as like this, hey, I need you to get 20. It's an inefficient 20 on a mediocre team. And then you see him fit in just so beautifully with a contending team that I think legitimizes his spot on this list.
Nice. All right. So we already talked about Jaren. Let's talk Nat Clifton. Nat Clifton is he's a Harlem Globetrotter first, and he's the guy that stops Mikan primarily. The Globetrotters employ a rare technique not seen, not common today, where they use two defenders to stop one person. But Nat is the backline guy defending Mikan, and when the NBA decides to break the color barrier, it's because the owner of the Knicks walks in there and says, "I'm fucking tired of losing to George Mikan. I'm gonna go sign Nat Clifton so that way we can have a guy that stops Mikan." Now, it doesn't fully work out. There's the quota. There's also this idea
Wow.
or unwritten rule that black players can't be star players. They're there to rebound and play defense in this era, and that's what he does. He is like a 10 and 10 guy for a large part of the pre-shot clock era, a little bit of the post-shot clock era. One-time all-star, or when black players were not commonly thought of as star players, but like really high-level defensive player and one of the best Harlem Globetrotters on the teams that beat Mike and the Lakers.
Yeah. I think that honestly, it's a point we fail to get across most of the time is the color barrier being broken, or the color barrier that existed during Mikan's era. And so Nat Clifton is one of the 3 African American players to break the color barrier. Like due to scheduling, I think he's the third essentially, but he comes in and like this is Matt All-Star appearance. It's just 10 points and 8 boards. Like it's a historical player we're looking at. Like this is massive. Purely basketball, I think we have him ranked properly, but on a bigger level, like this is one of the foundational players in league history.
Yeah, and I should say he is the to break the color barrier. They all break in the same season, but part of it is because once I believe it's Ned Irish, the owner of the Knicks, says that he's going after him, other teams decide to break the color barrier and they draft a couple of guys and are able to give them contracts right away out of college. Nat Clifton was the first guy that the NBA said they were going after. They just had to negotiate with the Harlem Globetrotters and Abe Saperstein and fight to get him over. So he doesn't technically get to be the first player to break the color barrier either by being drafted or play in the first, but he is the guy that puts it in motion to get him, according to historical records.
All right, great placement. Great placement. I'm happy with him there. Who'd you have next? I guess I should say some names because you had your guys. You're my guys. My next guy was PJ Brown. Brown is a 3-time all defensive player that and just it's 1,000 games of classic scrappy 6'11", 250 hard-nosed power forward 2000s basketball baby. 3-time all defensive second team. He's 13th in defensive player through voting 2006. He's basically a good defensive presence from 1994 to 2006, and he's even on the 08 Celtics. Just plays a little bit there, but plays until age 38. It's a longevity piece.
I have no idea what he did to somehow get an MVP vote at age 35 or a Defensive Player of the Year vote the next year at age 36. It's just some of those random. I'm sorry, I don't know what he's slipping the beat writers for these. There's a reason why the NBA had to start discussing these. It's such a low grade peak. It is a lot of longevity. I would not hate him making this list, but
Ooh, not
I
yet.
think it's just
Pushing
a little bit
back
too
a little
early.
bit. All right. How about my next guy was John Beasley. Let me see if I still feel strongly about that.
I'm going to tell you Beasley right behind in Harrison Barnes.
Okay, yeah, Beasley's 2 all ABA teams, but it's super early. Can I interest you in a Christian Laettner or a Tom Gugliotta?
Those are guys I have in this same range. Can I interest you in Thurl Bailey, Robert Horry, Boris Diaw, or Ray Scott?
Okay, I have Horry, I have Diaw. Didn't have Ray Scott. Who is the other one?
Thurl Bailey, the kind of sixth man, kind of like third best player of the Utah Jazz in 80.
Oh yeah,
89.
Yeah, okay, I had him. I see his name now. I have him 102. Okay.
It's back-to-back 20 points per game seasons. And then playoffs, he's got a pair of 20 points per game playoff runs coming off the bench, just lights it up as a scorer. Or probably would have been higher had they not had Karl Malone and these guys kind of trying to figure out how to both play power forward. He's kind of pushed into the small forward piece, but Thurl's my next guy up. Just I do think it is the highest peak remaining, of these guys.
All right, let's throw him in there. Ray Scott has some pretty good numbers. There's I think it's like no all-star teams is for that era is interesting because like everyone gets an all-star team, but some pretty nice rebounding numbers and scoring numbers. I still kind of like. Who's your next guy? We'll do it this way. Who's your next guy?
My next guy, Robert Horry. Much lower peak, probably a PJ Brown-esque peak and career. But Horry just did it in the playoffs so much, time and time again. He is on winning teams. He's power forward Sam Cassell, if you if I can
Okay.
get you on board with
I
this.
like
I
Sam
finally realized
Cassell. No,
what
I go ahead.
I finally realized why I dislike Sam Cassell. I was reminded that I met him once and he was a total dick.
Okay. Interesting.
It kind of
Yeah, I mean, Ori
forgot
wins
about that.
39 playoff series. He wins 7 championships. If he's at this point, we've acknowledged that he's not contributing to those. Robert Ory averages 7 points per game. But for someone just to have to consistently be a part of NBA history in this way, to hit these big shots, and he does play big minutes for Houston in those finals. Like he has some rings that he's a big part of. He's
He
Big
is,
Shot Bob, man. He's Big Shot Bob. You got to put him on.
yeah. I mean, he's not leading any of these teams of these rings, but he is contributing to all of them. Morphing into a defensive specialist for the 07 and Spurs, being the spacer that allows Shaq to operate freely in the paint for the Lakers, being a slasher for the Rockets, who also spaces. Like he does all of these things, and like I don't know what I got Danilo Gallinari a few spots back here. Like, what is Danilo doing for a championship team? He's doing what Robert Ory is doing if he could ever get there.
Yeah, I agree. Did you look at Gar Hurd at all?
No.
Interesting. Just kind of wild defensive numbers. They start tracking in 74. He's 25 and he's getting 2.8 blocks and 1.7 steals. He has the best defensive rating ever for a career. Number 1.
Those Buffalo teams. What it's him, Bob McAdoo, Phil Ford.
I don't know if
Hoffman?
Ford's there, but on top of that, like
Pete
you
Millen?
get he plays 40 minutes a night in the 76 finals. Like he hits I wish I knew the lore of it. He hits the big shot in the 76 finals. Like he hits the shot heard around the world, whatever the fuck it was called. Yeah, Gar Hurd shot forces triple OT in 1976. He's out there, dude. And so you get these like kind of crazy statistical seasons with defensively, but then he's also like a high level contributor on a finals team. He should make this list.
I can be talked into it. Do you want to
put him
do
here?
him here? Want to have him further down? I don't love anybody else that I have left. Like, I'm going to tell you, Tristan Thompson came incredibly close to making this list.
Tristan
And I think by the time
Thompson.
you get
That's terrible. Oh my god. Okay, let's do I have another okay, so I have my at this point I'm getting all my defense boys. If Hiri, if you play defense, come be on this list. Antonio Davis. I
my
think I
guy,
want him. Him and PJ Brown are quite similar. Davis makes an all-star team in 2001, averaging 14 points and 10 boards. What a different time. But the enforcer, the rebounder, the defensive presence, Antonio Davis, also plays in 18 playoff series and wins 9 of them. Is a big part of like the pre-2000 finals run Pacers. But you want to do him?
yeah, I love
Right.
Davis. The soul crushing screens he would set to free up Reggie Miller are talk of a legend. He is part of one of my favorite Raptors teams of all time. And like, was it 2002 or 2001 Eastern Conference semis? Goes 7 games. He's averaging 17 points, 10 boards, almost 2 blocks. Like game 7, he drops 23 of the team's 87 points in a 1-point loss. Yeah, much love for Antonio Davis.
All right. That's Davis at 93. Then Gar Hurd. Then PJ Brown.
Sure. I do think that we might be overrating PJ. We can come back. I can maybe look at it a little bit more with fresher, not dreary eyes.
My eyes are not dreary. I have fresh eyes. Would you rather have Boris Diaw over him?
I would rather have Boris Diaw and Ray Scott. Like the thing with Ray
okay.
Scott, the league is really condensed. He's playing through the heart of the '60s, so he's putting up good numbers. But it is, yeah, everyone does kind of make an all-star team, except for there's kind of a crunch on bigs. Some of the rebound numbers get a little bit gaudy due to just the speed of the era, but from 62 to 68, 16.2 points per game, 11 rebounds per game. In the playoffs of just 2 of those seasons, but we are looking at 40 minutes per game in the playoffs in 62, averaging 17 points and 14 and a half boards and 4.3 assists. Like, I think that is a higher peak contribution than you see from PJ.
I think that sounds good.
So wait, cool with 94. Can we do Boris Diaw at 95, Ray Scott at 96, and then PJ at 97?
Are we still recording? My thing
Yes.
says recording error in the bottom. Is checking that I might disappear in a second, and I'm back. All right. I'm looking up. Can you say that one more time? So we have 94 Gar Hurd, 95 Boris Diaw, 96 Ray Scott, 97 PJ Brown.
You got it.
Okay. All right. Anyone you feel really strongly about? Because I kind of don't.
Oh no, I do not care about the rest of these guys. They will not make our top 500 at this point. I mean, like, we could at least have the tacit talk of like, hey, how do you feel about Paolo Banchero or Zion Williamson? And that's just going to result in us saying, not yet, too soon.
It actually hasn't been too soon yet for Zion, and these guys are so bad. Zion's played like 100 games, and so that's back. My next guys were John Beasley, Christian Laettner, Tom Gugliotta, Lonnie Sheldon, Jeff Green, Thaddeus Young, Wayman Tisdale, Harrison Barnes, Danilo Gallinari. Any takers?
That's my next guys in order are basically the same list: Harrison Barnes, John Beasley, Danilo Gallinari, Christian Laettner, Goose Ligon, and Tom Gugliotta, Thad Young, and Donnell Marshall.
Donnell Marshall. Okay.
I love Donnell Marshall.
Hey, he hit 12 threes in a game. Let's do.
I kind of get ranking. I was like, listen, I look at Kurt Thomas, had good longevity. Udonis has one of the guy that's played forever. Luis Scola, Joe Smith, Keith Van Horn. Like, there's another range of guys in here, but like,
Udonis Haslem did not play
fine.
I will put my foot down and say Udonis Haslem has bad longevity. That dude stopped playing in like 2015. he was not a starter. He played like 300 games in his last 8 seasons. It's fucking ridiculous.
Oh, that's generous. 7 to 20, so 7 years. He plays 65 games.
That's insane. 65. That can't be right.
Years.
65. Oh my
65,
goodness.
477 total minutes. No, I mean, when we talk about some guys with great longevity,
that's unbelievable.
He's not in the list. Like, you scroll down the basketball reference page. He's not in there for minutes played. He's not in there for games played in the top up. I don't know how deep these lists go, but he's in there for
player coach. They go like 300 deep on the games, and like he's not okay. All right, Tom Gugliotta's in, making the call.
Googs.
98.
Love it.
Timberwolves All-Star. John Beasley was in both of ours, right?
John Beasley's in both of ours. Can we have him over Gugliotta?
Sure.
Perfect. Gugliotta, there's like no playoffs. That's the big kicker. That's what drags him down in the matrix. John Beasley at least had some playoff successes, and per the matrix, a higher peak. Yeah, it's ABA, 3-time All-Star, 2-time All-ABA. He gets drafted by the NBA in 65, doesn't make it. I'm kind of okay with that. Like he got better. He played in other leagues. From 68 to 70, 19 points per game, 11.8 rebounds per game. Are we really going to say the ABA is a weaker era than putting up numbers on the Timberwolves?
That's funny. That's a great point. Hey, 1968 ABA was rough. You know who also was bad? The rest of these guys. I have our number 100 guy. What if I told you I had a player who'd played in nearly 1,200 games? Did you catch what I said? Did I disconnect?
You disconnected, but I want to guess where you're going.
Okay. I gave a description. Can I get my description?
Yeah. Give me the description.
I have a player that's played in nearly 1,200 games and has a championship ring.
Was he also a member of the greatest basketball team ever assembled to play in the Olympics prior to this season?
I don't think so. I don't think so. No, I
Right.
actually don't know.
We're discussing different guys because I'm going Christian Leitner.
No, I was gonna say Jeff Green.
Oh, get out of here with Uncle. Start off with
Uncle
Uncle
Jeff.
Cliff. We're not getting both the
Uncle,
unks in here.
put Unk in there. Uncle Jeff should make it. He's played 20 playoff series. He was on the 2018 Cavs. He played 17 minutes a night on last year's Nuggets. Come on. He was also weirdly unguardable in the for the Nets against Milwaukee in 2021. I was really pulling for the Nets to lose, and so it's like I can't fucking believe Jeff Green is getting buckets. Like this is driving me crazy. I
Come
don't
on,
know.
you know you'd rather have Christian Leitner here.
Yeah, all right. Leitner's number 100. I'll say college career is influencing this one. I'll go off the beaten path. There's nothing to do with NBA.
I'm gonna say
All
his
right.
97 playoffs. That's where he averages in the first round 40 minutes per game, 19 points, 7.2 hoop boards. It's actually a really fun Atlanta Hawks team. It's like him, Blaylock, Sam Smith, Dikembe
Yeah.
Mutombo. I forget who the power or the small forward is, but like it's a fun cast of characters. And he's right there. He's playing a shit ton of minutes with these guys. Second round does take kind of a dump percentage wise,
Hey man,
35%, but
do what he could. All right, I'm reading
yeah,
these names. You
do
ready?
it. Yes, sir.
76 is Mel Hutchins, then Cliff Robinson, AC Green, Marvin Barnes, 80s Jack Coleman, Mickey Johnson, Tobias Harris, Serge Ibaka, Bob Coppin, Stu Johnson, Josh Smith, Johnny Green, Jaren Jackson Jr., Aaron Gordon. 90 is Nat Clifton, Thurl Bailey, Robert Ory, Antonio Davis, Gar Hurd, Boris Diaw, Ray Scott, PJ Brown, John Beasley, Tom Gugliotta, and Christian Leitner. Nate, we only have one more of these to do, and then we're cracking out the top 500 or 400, I guess. How do you feel?
I feel incredibly good. I want to make two quick clarifications. Did you have Gordon above Jackson Jr. or below Jackson Jr.?
Below.
Okay.
Should we
I'm
do?
just gonna flip
Should we go above?
No, we're gonna have to
Okay.
fix it next year. And
Yes.
then Al Hutchins was not 76. 76 is Juwan Howard. Hutchins is 72.
Oh,
we
that's
jumped
right.
him up into there.
That's right. Okay.
I am so
Juwan Howard.
to top.
Yeah, you're right.
I think we're gonna make it to top 450 before we need to go back to some of these lists. And I think like we're gonna probably get point guards, small forwards, and centers out to 125. Shooting guards and power forwards can suck it. I don't think the full top 100s of either of those are making
They're the
the
tweener
top 500.
tweener positions. It's just the nature of the game. It's, they
Yeah.
If you're a really good point guard, if you're a really good shooting guard, you just become a point guard. It's what James Harden did.
Listen, the Boston Celtics showed us that they understand the meta. They're gonna have 2 point Drew and White. They're gonna have two small forwards and Brown and Tatum, and they're gonna have two centers and Holiday or in Horford and Porzingis. That's all you need is centers, small forwards, and point guards. These other positions, they're not valuable.
There's never been a good team built around a shooting guard or a power forward. You know that?
Yeah.
Ever. Never happened.
I mean, really, we know that it was Pippen that carried Jordan It was Tony Parker who carried the Duncan. Actually, Duncan, fuck it, Duncan's a center. We've already
Yeah, there
established
you go. We fixed it. We fixed it already. He's not even in the list. All right. Well, Nate, wonderful time making the list with you.
Yes. Where can the people find you? Let's do those pluggables again.
Possible Chairs on TikTok, Possible Chairs on Twitter, and my Patreon, where this list can be found in wonderful writing with links to all of their basketball references pages, as well as the updates and changes over the times you've done this.
Find me, hoopstemple@gmail.com. Love to get some emails from you. But we also have Patreons that's out there. I'm on TikTok, Nate_hoopstemple. Love to talk to you guys there. We'll catch you next week.